I'm good.
Everybody lose keys? It's got 726. First readings?
We're going to be grouping those
Okay.
for different parcels.
Okay.
So they're going to be grouped.
Okay. I saw them on there when I was looking at it on my phone.
Are you going to this? We're going to.
My dress is not going to be long. It's but it's formal.
How are you?
Good, Bob. How are you doing?
Sisquik.
Oh, where'd you go?
Alaska.
Oh, I'm not jealous at all.
Here.
Oh,
At the country club.
the sweltering heat. I know, right?
But I don't think it has to be long. My husband's not even gonna wear it.
Yeah.
I don't think.
You're not used to wearing long sleeve shirts and jackets in the month of June. But anyway, it was great.
I'm glad you got to go. Oops.
See, we have a police officer here.
Yeah. You got him across the stage.
I know, I was there. I was back there with him.
Yeah, we already have a table, yeah.
Make sure they have enough time to get their gown.
I think I'm just gonna wear my outfit that I bought for DAR convention in Washington DC in 2018. I only wore it that one time. And I, have shoes and bag and wrap and everything to go together, so I'm not gonna buy something else when I've only worn that once.
What he needs to do. Within boundaries.
Oh, yeah. And he's here.
Oh, does he? Okay.
I didn't get one of those. Let's see me. Oh my, that is stuck in there, isn't it? I believe it's glued in. What, ma'am? There it is. Mr. Mayor, I didn't get one of the invitations to the ball.
I think we've all got one of those. Or you can, if you want to go, just email Lisa. Let
Okay.
Lisa know.
Yeah.
And then if you and Doug are both. All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Texarkana, Texas City Council. Today is June the 20th, 2023. We'd like to welcome all of you who are joining us this evening for our council meeting, those who are joining us in person, as well as those who are joining us online. We certainly appreciate your attendance this evening. At this time, I'm going to call on Vicki Coopwood to provide us with a roll call. Ms. Coopwood is our Assistant City Secretary. Ms. Evans is on vacation, and so Vicki is filling in for her. So, Vicki, please provide us a roll call.
Here. Here. Mr. Davis.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Hart. And Ms. White.
Here.
All right, very good. We do have a full council this evening, and our invocation and pledge will be led by Councilmember Betty Williams. If everyone will please stand.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight to ask your continued blessings upon our city and upon its employees and upon this council. May we look to you for guidance in all that we do, and we want to express our appreciation to all of our employees, especially our policemen, our firemen, and our first responders, because without them, we would be in a much more precarious position. We ask you to be with the leaders of our country also, and be with us this summer as we travel with our families. Keep us safe and bring us back home. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Let me get this chair out of the way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Just have a few items to go over this evening in reference to events and things that are taking place in the community. First of all, I would like to recognize someone in the audience, and that is Brimley Estes. Brimley, will you please stand? Brimley is an educator in our community. She is also a student at A&M Texarkana, and she has an assignment that she's completing as part of her course studies, and she has chosen to spend some time with me for 4 hours. So bless your heart over that. But anyway, I'm honored that she asked to spend a period of time with the mayor. I've invited her to our council meeting this evening to let her be familiar with what we do in our council meeting and kind of how we prepare for our council meetings. And so, Brimley, we certainly thank you for being here. We hope that you find the meeting to be informative. And her husband is a Texas DPS trooper, Sergeant Estes, Eric Estes, and so we thank him for his service as well, and we thank you for being here this evening. So, all right, very good. Also, would like to, just a few other things to mention. This past Saturday, we had the Juneteenth celebration that was held downtown. It was a very warm Saturday evening, but there was a very, very large turnout for the event. I was pleased that I was able to make it back in town from vacation on Saturday to be there to present a proclamation. I also want to thank Council Members Matlock, Council Member Hart, and Council Member Page for their attendance as well. We also had city staff present. Dr. Orr and Keith Beeson and several others were there Brooke was there to be a part of that, to represent the city, and so their efforts are greatly appreciated as well. And so I thought the event was very well done, very good attendance, a lot of good vendors there, and so I'm hoping that this will be an event that will continue to grow each and every year, and I'm sure that it will. So I want to thank all of those. This was really sponsored by the Scholars Program, which is a local youth group in our community that is very, very important, and they do very, very good work, and just some fine young ladies and gentlemen who are part of that group. And so we want to thank the Scholars for sponsoring the event this year, as well as those who participated. Also would like to pass along congratulations to Dr. Chad Pirtle, the Pleasant Grove ISD School Superintendent. Dr. Pirtle was recognized as the Region 8 Superintendent of the Year. And so I sent him a text message yesterday thanking him and congratulating him, and he said it was certainly a team effort. There were a lot of those at the school district who were a part of that to make that happen, and so certainly appreciate the great work that's taking place at PGISD. Also involving our upcoming city council meetings, so our meeting for July will be on Monday, July the 10th at 6 p.m. Once again, we'll only have one meeting during the month of July due to our summer schedule. And then back in August, or when we get to August rather, we will be reverting back to 2 council meetings per month. The first one will be on Monday, August the 14th, followed by Monday, August the 28th at 6 p.m. Also, as a reminder, our farmers market is still available. Farmers market continues each Saturday from 7 a.m. until 12 noon at 500 North State Line Avenue, which is in front of the courthouse post office building in Shepherd Park. And so that's been a very, very successful event that's taking place again this year, and so we want to thank those who are there to provide their products for sale, as well as those who come to purchase those products, and so your efforts are greatly appreciated for that. We also have a summer camp coming up. Summer camp began on June the 12th and will continue through June the 30th. We'll be taking a break a week of July the 4th and start back July the 10th through July the 28th. Also, we have upcoming shows at the Perot Theater. June the 24th will be Sean Clush, who is claiming to be the ultimate Elvis. And so those of you who are Elvis fans may want to attend that event. Also, in reference to Parks and Recreation events, on June the 20th through the 23rd, we'll have Cub Scout day camps, and that will be held at Spring Lake Park at Pavilion number 1. For additional Parks and Recreation information, it can be found on the city's website, or call the city and we'll be more than happy to assist you with that. At this time, we'll move along to our proclamation presentation this evening. This proclamation is in reference to Elder Abuse Awareness Month, and so at this time I will read the proclamation. Whereas older adults and people with disabilities of diverse backgrounds contribute to the well-being of this city by working, caregiving, volunteering, and actively preserving customs, rituals, and traditions. And whereas as we age, we build momentum by accumulating knowledge, experience, insight, and wisdom that can be shared to enrich our community. And whereas abuse of older adults and people with disabilities is a community concern affecting thousands of people across Texas. And whereas abuse affected more than 118,208 older adults and people with disabilities in Texas in 2021. And whereas abuse against older adults and people with disabilities is grossly underreported because of social stigma, embarrassment, and fear. And whereas adult abuse affects men and women of all income and ability levels, all cultural and ethnic backgrounds, in all communities. And whereas elder abuse is everyone's business, it's important to strengthen our efforts to prevent, report, and address elder abuse. Now, therefore, I, Bob Brugman, Mayor of the City of Texarkana, Texas, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2023 to be Elder Abuse Awareness Month in the City of Texarkana, Texas, and urge all residents to work together to reduce abuse and neglect of older adults and people with disabilities. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and have caused the official seal of the City of Texarkana, Texas to be affixed to this 20th day of June 2023. And so I have signed the proclamation. It's been attested by Jennifer Evans, our city secretary, and the city seal has also been affixed to the proclamation. So something to certainly keep in mind, not only during the month of June, but on a continuous basis in reference to elder abuse.
May I say something, Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Matlock, sure.
I am on the Adult Protective Services Advisory Board, and this month we were all asked to wear purple. And on June 15th, there was a World Abuse Day. So we all wore purple. We went around the city and hung purple ribbons. 1 in 10 seniors, citizens are abused. And those are just the cases that are reported. Now, we have monthly meetings, and so far we've had like from 25 to 40 cases every month here in Texarkana only, and about the same on the Arkansas side. So it's very important to report it, because a lot of times people don't report it. We have children abusing their parents, won't take care of them, and there are a lot of cases here. So the important thing is to report it. They have 800 numbers that you can call. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Matlock. Appreciate that information and appreciate your service with that very important organization. At this time, move along to open forum comments from the public. If there's anyone in the audience this evening who would like to address the council, you're welcome to do so. If you're here, however, to speak on one of our public hearing items, then I would respectfully ask that you wait until we get to that particular public hearing item. We'll be glad to listen to your comments at that time. We also ask that you complete one of the sheets on the rack there by the door. It's a sheet that will record your name and address and information, so we'll have a written record of your attendance this evening. So we're having some issues with our clock, but I'll make arrangements to make sure that we keep up with the time. Is there anyone who would like to address the council this evening? Ms. Coopwood, did you have any sheets turned in? You did not? Okay. Final call for comments from the public? Okay. At this time, we'll move along to appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. Do we have any appointments by the council this evening to any boards, commissions, or committees? Mr. Davis?
I have a new appointment for Building and Standards for Colton Langford.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Yes, I have a new appointment for Building and Standards, Todd Marshall.
Okay. All right. Very good. Anyone else? Okay, very good. Is there a motion for approval of those names that have been placed in nomination?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember White. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The appointments have been approved. I want to thank those citizens for their willingness to serve on these very important boards and commissions in our community. At this time, we'll move along to items for consideration. We do have 4 items in the section pertaining to consent items on the consent agenda. Item 1 is to consider approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the City Council held on May 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Item 2 is to consider approval of the minutes of the budget workshop meeting of the City Council held on May 23rd, 2023 at 12 noon or 12 p.m. Item 3 is resolution number 2023-080, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Holistic Utility Solutions for the Pro Theater's new HVAC and controls, TIP Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. Funds for purchase are from the Conservation Revolving Loan Fund and the Perot Theater Maintenance Fund. Item 4 is resolution number 2023-081, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with IBIS LLC of Texarkana, Arkansas for the replacement of sewer main at I-30 and Calhoun Creek, project in an amount not to exceed $654,977.40. Funds are available in the Utilities 2022-2023 budget in the Texas Capital Infrastructure Fund. Unless a council member would like to pull one or more items for further consideration, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it has been presented. Is there a motion for approval? We have a motion by Councilmember Page. We have a second by Councilmember Matlock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The consent agenda has been approved. We'll now move along to our action items this evening. Item number 5 is resolution number 2023-077, supporting a grant application to the Texas Department of Transportation for the 2023 Transportation Set-Aside, TASA, call for projects for North Richmond Road. And we have Vachille Fernandez with Community Development to brief us on this item as well as a couple of the upcoming items. So good evening, Vachille.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you, for your consideration, is the application to the Texas Department, which is TxDOT, their Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Grant Program. In December 2022, TxDOT issued a call for projects for this TA program. And the funds from these programs can be used for preliminary engineering as well as construction. So this application right now is for North Richmond Road, as you mentioned, to do bike and pedestrian improvements. And the project will begin at Galleria Oaks, and it will go all the way up to University and connect to the University, Texas A&M. Right now, the total cost for this project is $2,863,054. And unlike previous sidewalk grants, there used to be a 20% match requirement, but this year we qualify for transportation development credits, which will cover all that matching funds. The only other thing to that was the city would be responsible for all non-reimbursable costs and 100% of overrun for this grant. I'm happy to answer any question that you may have.
Okay. Any questions for Vachille on this item? It's good to see that our sidewalk program is continuing throughout the city. We've had some major corridors, Summer Hill, Richmond Road, Robinson Road areas that, College Drive areas that have received this. And so it's great to see that we're going to be able to continue this throughout the city, especially in the Richmond Road corridor. I think that's very, very important. So.
Yes, and one of the things I forgot to mention is all these applications are part of the MPO's regional active transportation plan. So they're all on a plan that schedule that we have.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Vashil on this item? Okay, move along to item number 6, resolution number 2023-078, supporting a grant application to the Texas Department of Transportation for the 2023 Transportation Set-Aside TASA call for projects for Leopard Drive. Vashil?
Yes. So this application will be for Leopard Drive, as you mentioned, and this will be a shared use path as well as pedestrian improvements that will start right at the apartment right there on Salt Lake Drive, and will go all the way past the Liberty LOI School and then connect to the Grady T. Wallace Trail. This is also included in our active transportation plan. The cost for this will be $1,639,558, and this also is eligible for transportation development credits as well. Happy to answer any questions about that one.
Questions for Vashil? Okay. Now, I apologize, my dementia set in for just a few minutes. We need to go back to item number 5. We are scheduled to take action on these items this evening. I apologize. I thought we were doing first briefing. So let's go back to item 5. Let me go ahead and read the caption again, and then we'll do a motion in a second, and then take a vote. Item 5 is resolution number 2023-077, supporting a grant application to the Texas Department of Transportation for the 2023 Transportation Set-Aside TASA call for projects for North Richmond Road. Vashil has briefed the council on this item, so is there a motion for approval? We have a motion for approval by Councilmember White. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Davis. This item pertains to a resolution, so there's not a caption. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The resolution passes unanimously. All right. And you did finish item 6 too, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So item 6 is resolution number 2023-078, supporting a grant application to the Texas Department of Transportation for the 2023 Transportation Set-Aside TASA call for projects for Leopard Drive. Once again, we've been briefed on this item by Vashil. Is there a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The resolution passes unanimously. Okay, now move along to item number 7. Resolution number 2023-079, supporting a grant application to the Texas Department of Transportation for the 2023 Transportation Set-Aside TASA call for projects for Texas Boulevard. Vashil?
Yes, Mayor. So this project will be for pedestrian improvements and will begin right where Texas Boulevard intersect at New Boston Road, and it will go all the way down to the state line. The total cost for this project is $4,758,549. And this also is eligible for transportation development credits, and like I mentioned, the city will be responsible for all non-reimbursable costs and 100% of overruns. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, this will certainly be a very important corridor as we begin construction soon on the new elementary school at the former Pine Street property, with having access with sidewalks in that area. So that'll be very beneficial. I'm not sure of the timing of that with the construction of the school, but ultimately it will be very, very beneficial. Okay. Any questions from the council?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Just out of curiosity, when do you think they may start, and how long do you think these projects may last?
From what I've seen with our previous projects, construction won't start for another 4, maybe 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
it'll be a while.
Glad to have it on the agenda for later.
Yeah. So
Glad you asked that.
come get me at the nursing home, and I'll drive out there and look at it. So, All right, I didn't realize it was going to be that long, but eventually it will be nice.
Yes.
It will be nice, okay, so, all right. Is there a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The resolution passes. Moving along to item number 8, resolution number 2023-090, proposing full purpose annexation of certain commercial limited purpose property and contiguous discrete portion of U.S. Highway 59 described in the strategic partnership agreement with the Macedonia ILO Municipal Utility District Number 1 of Bowie County and municipal services to be provided. And our city attorney, Mr. Jeff Lewis, is going to provide information on this item. Mr. Lewis?
It didn't take us 5 years for this, but it was a year ago when the council and the utility district looked at the piece of property that's on the screen and a piece of property that is north that the council has already addressed with full purpose annexation, the resortments property. This is what we began with, though. The boundaries that are contiguous with the city limits, the north boundary, carefully moving around residential property since this only applies to commercial property, focusing on the stretch of properties that are contiguous to and fronting US Highway 59, and some emphasis on the southern boundary. We would also be proposing in this process to give notice to TxDOT that we intend to annex a stretch of the roadway beginning from the loop going south-southwest to the Kings Highway intersection, only to the midpoint. Consistent with our strategic partnership agreement, there is some reworking of infrastructure, and the city is acquiring and working with the rights of way on the side of the highway that would be adjacent and contiguous to this property for some sewer work, basically to make sure that the frontage is ready in areas that it needs to be ready for commercial property development. The south part will remain within the Macedonia Utility District, and our strategic partnership agreement detailed a scope of work with respect to what needed to be accomplished. That notice to TxDOT, if the council approves this resolution, would be sent out promptly. That starts a roughly 2-month time period for TxDOT to review and either give comments approving or not approving the request. This resolution projects out that we would be looking at an annexation ordinance for this entire area in first briefing and the first meeting in August, and then council vote, if the council chooses, at the second meeting in August. This is all for purposes of commercial development. We have virtual unanimity with many of the property owners. The big ones in the north are all consent annexations. The authority of the strategic partnership agreement that was struck with the utility district authorizes annexation for all of the Highway 59 properties, and the majority of those owners have also consented as well. In the next couple of months, we will be assimilating and accumulating the additional consent documentation, but the documentation that we have, whether in signed forms, emails, commitments, those are all part of the council packet. So this has been a very hands-on involvement by multiple departments of the city staff and TWU. We look forward to bringing this to the council for an annexation vote. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Lewis on this item? Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right, is there a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Davis. And once again, this is a resolution, so there's not a caption. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Resolution passes. Moving along to item number 9, ordinance number 2023-061, granting a specific use permit to allow the location of a cellular tower on approximate 7.13 acre tract of land, being tract 44A, JM Golf Headright Survey, A-244, located at 2718 Moores Lane. Patrick Cannon, representing Walnut Church of Christ, owner, and Wayne Barnett, agent. A 3/4 vote of this council is required to adopt the ordinance, and this item was tabled at the May 8th, 2023 council meeting. And so at this time, I'm going to turn this over to the city manager, Dr. Orr, to provide some additional information relating to this particular ordinance. Dr. Orr?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before proceeding with this item tonight, I wanted to run by you a few options that the council has related to this specific use permit. First off, the item is tabled, and so it can remain tabled if the council elects to do so. I just want to remind you that the FCC law does require the city to consider this request with, quote, a reasonable period of time. If the council elects to vote on the item tonight, we'll need a vote to remove it as a tabled item for consideration and any further discussion. And also, third, a workshop was also discussed at the last meeting, and staff needs a little bit further direction if the consensus of the council is to head in that direction. However, I want to just note that a workshop to consider new cell tower regulations should be noted that it would be after this agenda item. This agenda item would still need to be considered prior to any new regulations that would be adopted. So following past practice, as was mentioned with the electronic messaging, we'd place this item first on the agenda and then any new regulations afterwards. Also, I want to point out in your packet, there's a map that was not discussed at the last meeting that I think may help in terms of the next steps. And that map is a map of the overall cell tower locations in the city. So there are 27 total cell towers throughout the city limits. But the majority of these locations are a use by right in terms of zoning. So more specifically, a use by right means that 17 of these locations are in industrial zoning to general retail, which means they are used by right, and 10 have been approved by the city council with a specific use permit. A specific use permit is required only in agricultural, residential, office, or neighborhood service zoning. So workshop conversations would focus primarily on these zoning districts and any additional regulations you'd like to see. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have, and the information is also in your packet as well.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Orr on this item?
May I suggest we go ahead and take care of the procedural motion
Yes,
first?
yes,
If the
Mr.
council
Lewis.
chooses to talk about this.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was that?
If the council chooses so. So a procedural motion would be in order to remove it from the table.
Right. So currently, this item has been tabled, so there would have to be a motion and a second, and the council to vote to take it off the table for, for consideration as far as approval. This application, if I'm correct, Dr. Orr, this actually started back in the month of November of last year, correct? The initial work on this particular item?
That's correct. It was introduced in November, and I believe it was tabled several times at the Planning and Zoning Commission level.
Okay, so we're basically 7 months beyond the date that the application was made, and that was done in accordance with the guidelines that we have in place as far as going through the Planning and Zoning Commission, going through a public hearing, and also being presented to the council for, final consideration. So, as Dr. Orr mentioned with the electronic message board, we did have some questions in reference to that. We had 2 items involving 2 local churches in reference to electronic messaging, and then those items were voted on individually, and then after that was done, basically there was a workshop set up, kind of a moratorium period for the council to look at any potential new guidelines in reference to electronic messaging, and this would be a very similar application in reference to this type of activity as well. So any questions from the council?
No,
Okay.
ready to move forward.
Ready to move forward?
Well, I do have a question,
Ms.
actually.
White?
I do. So in order for us to talk about a workshop for future things, do we have to untable this item?
To take action on it, you would. If you want to go ahead and confer now about future meetings or future workshops, but we do need to get that procedural motion out of the way at some point at the council's discretion.
But you did that before, didn't you?
Let's,
Haven't we had?
that would be my advice. Let's go
Haven't
ahead and
we
get that done.
That's,
It's on the table by council vote. Let's get it off the table by council vote. So it's just a procedural motion and second and vote. This is not voting on the actual item itself.
Yeah, this is just a motion and a second and vote to remove it from the position of being a tabled item would be step number 1.
so moved.
Okay, Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Hart to remove the item from the table, a second by Councilmember Page. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, that motion passes unanimously. All right, then, Mr. Lewis, our options would be to go ahead and move forward in taking action on this item.
I think you probably have a council member that's got some questions, and
Okay.
y'all are
Okay,
free
yeah.
and clear to
Okay, all right.
talk
so-
as long as you need to about this one.
Okay, all right, so that would be a possibility. Okay, Ms. White?
I did want to ask about workshop, just for all of us in general. I know there was a lot of discussion last time, and I wasn't a part of previous votes, but I wanted to get the ideas of the council on, not specifically this one, but moving forward, what we all think would be ways that we can protect our residents from maybe some of the things that, things have been passed in the past. Would it be a workshop? Would it be working together with planning and zoning and with city council so we can all figure out what's best in the future? No, I'm not talking about this one, I mean in future ones. Just want to get ideas of the council and what y'all thought would be best for all of our residents for future cell phone towers.
Well, they've got other areas with these towers up in them, and there are gonna be more towers.
Right.
So why can't we vote on this, go ahead and vote
Well,
on
I'm
this?
not talking about this one. I'm not talking about this one. I mean, outside of this one that we have a vote tonight. I mean, in future ones. Because, like Dr. Orr said, we'll need to vote on this one, and it has to be under the previous ordinances that planning and zoning's already. I understand that. I mean,
Yeah.
for future ones that may
Yeah.
come up, because it's only. I mean, we are constantly going to be having these. So I just wanted to get the ideas of council, how we thought moving forward we could kind of set the tone to where it's all equal across all wards, and these kind of issues don't come up. Just wanted to get any ideas maybe y'all may have.
That's what we're
Well,
trying to do.
with the electronic messaging, we basically set up workshops with the council and with the staff.
Okay.
And then the staff did research, they looked at other guidelines in other municipalities, in other jurisdictions, brought forth some ideas for the council to consider, and then based on that, there were other questions that the council asked that the staff researched. And so that was done, and then basically, ultimately, then there were some guidelines, of course, with the message boarding, basically dimensions and things like that, and height and that sort of thing. So that's kind of how that was handled in reference to that. And then, if we need to get input from others, we can certainly, consider that as well. But, and it would probably, I'm anticipating it would probably take, 2-3 months in order to work on this and to get it done. May take a little bit longer, but I think that would be somewhat of a timeline to kind of consider. So, am I correct on that, David, and what we did on the electronic messaging?
Yes, and we would also include planning and zoning as well, because any change in the regulation would start with them first.
Right.
And so that's part of the time commitment that would take to get something like this passed. But
Okay.
we have looked at, and just kind of for reference, so the city's cell tower regulations are currently in the Land Development Code, and there's a couple of chapters that pertain to that, primarily Chapter 140, 81, and 179. And so staff has already started looking at those chapters to see what revisions we could potentially propose to make,
Okay.
and looking at other cities. We also have to combine that with the International Building Code, because on the building code side is where the collapsible tower comes into play. And so that was discussed last time at the meeting as well. So it would take the combination of all those regulations to form a new ordinance.
Did they go through all this?
Any other questions, Ms. White? Do you have any other
Well,
questions?
I wanted to throw an idea out there to y'all. I didn't know if even asking our residents, previous ones and votes y'all have had, maybe what were some of the things that they were concerned about, so that we could also pass that along
We've been
to
through
them.
that.
Because from the last meeting, I remember Andrew Clark had mentioned, that would be something that we could do moving forward, is just coming up with a concise plan for all of them. So I didn't know if even just asking our residents and our wards, how we'd even do that, but
Yeah, I think that
getting
would,
their
right.
input on
I think that would be
moving forward.
welcomed. I think that could be done a couple of ways. I think that could be done on an individual basis by a citizen contacting their council member, or contacting me. I'll be glad to talk with them about it, and getting their input. And I think there are different avenues that we can pursue in getting input from the citizens as well. I think that's important
Okay.
to do that as well.
Well, do I need to make some kind of motion to, about if y'all agree with maybe doing a joint workshop in the future with planning and zoning to find do I need to make a motion, or how do I need to do that to?
I will defer to Mr. Lewis on that. I think it would just be advising the staff to begin working on it. But Mr. Lewis, let me defer to you.
In the context of the discussion, I've not heard any council member suggest not to proceed in that fashion. Councilmember White, it would seem to me that in this circumstance, if that's the council's direction for us to move forward with respect to what Dr. Orr referenced, looking at the other cities in combination with our particular ordinances, the International Building Code, and then I would hate to set a date before the work gets done. Council perhaps an update at the next meeting on when staff thinks that it is time to gather the appropriate elected officials, at what point you want to add P and Z, to have a productive meeting. So I guess that would be my suggestion, Councilmember White. There is nothing out of order with respect to asking for, or moving and making a second to proceed in that fashion, but I get the sense that's the consensus that staff is receiving and that I'm hearing, and then give council an update at the July meeting on where we are and when we could anticipate scheduling something. Be my
Okay. Okay. So do I need to do anything yes, is everybody good with that? Just for,
Everybody fine
I'm
with
gonna talk
that?
about this current one, for future ones.
Right, yeah, after we take
Right,
action
after we
on
take
this
care of
one,
action on this
for any
one.
Well,
future.
Ms. Medlock didn't get that opportunity to do all of these things when they wanted one in her area.
I understand that, and I wasn't a
Okay.
part of those, and so that's why I wanted to make sure that moving forward, all of our residents were represented and were protected for any future ones.
You know, I'm really, don't care if we have workshops or whatever. My thing is, what's wrong with the policy that we have in place? There was no problem until it came to a certain area. Now there's a problem. What's the problem with it? If there's no problem, if it's not broken, why do we need to fix it? Why can't we use the same procedures?
Well, and that could also be an outcome of the work that's done too, that, procedures that we have in place may be deemed to be appropriate. But that gives us a chance to explore the full gamut of this area, so.
Ms. Matlock, if I could address that, a thought did occur to me with respect to how this came to the council. It was not just from a protest, but it was also from a P&Z denial. If the council sees the need to direct P&Z by ordinance with criteria or purpose with respect to the council's overall strategy for the city, that might be something that could be useful out of this, because it's the council that sets policy and P&Z needs to abide by that policy. But that was just a suggestion and a thought that came to mind. If the policy is not clear, or if P&Z doesn't think the policy is clear, then this gives the council an opportunity to make it clear. Just a thought.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. All right, so any other questions pertaining to background or anything? Okay, so if it's the wishes of the council to go ahead and take action on this particular ordinance, then at this time I would entertain a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Page and we have a second by Councilmember Hart. Ms. Coopwood, could you provide the caption, please?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending the zoning map showing the location, boundary, and use of certain property by the granting of a specific use permit, number S772, to allow the location of a telecommunication tower on a 7.13 acre tract of land, being tract 44A, JM Golf, HRS A-244, located at 2718 Morris Lane in the city of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
All right, Ms. Coopwood, roll call, please.
Ms. Matlock,
Yes.
Ms. Page. Yes. Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Hart,
Yes.
Ms. White.
No.
Vote of the council is 5 votes yes, 1 vote no, due to a 3/4 vote requiring 5 affirmative votes. The ordinance does pass. Am I correct, Mr. Lewis? Okay. Ordinance does pass 2023-061. I know that there are several here in the audience who were here for the public hearing on this item, and once again, I want to thank you for your attendance and your comments that you made at that time, and appreciate your time being here this evening as well. At this time, move along to first briefings. We do have several first briefings on the agenda. Item 1 is resolution number 2023-076, adopting the Community Development Block Grant CDBG Consolidated Plan, Citizen Participation Plan, and Annual Plan of Action. And Fashil Fernandez is back to brief us on this item. Fashil?
Yes. Good evening again, Mayor and Council. So in front of you is the consideration for a resolution to adopt the Community Development Block Grant 2023 to 2027 Consolidated 5-Year Strategic Plan and our Annual Action Plan for this next year. This evening I have with me Miss Erica Frambro, our consultant that's been working with us on this project, and she will introduce herself and kind of go through a presentation of what our plan looks like.
Okay, very good. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Yes,
Glad to have you
absolutely.
with us at our meeting, and look forward to your information, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to me this evening. I'm Erica Fambro with WFN Consulting. We've been working with the City of Texarkana for the last several months on the 5-year consolidated plan and the annual action plan, citizen participation plan. So we'll go through a presentation here today. Let's see, how do I advance this slide? Okay, someone will do it for me. Awesome. So the map that you'll see here, part of the purpose of the consolidated plan, these are funds that the city receives from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. So the funds are primarily geared towards residents who are low income. And so you'll see a map here that outlines areas within the community that have at least 51% or more falling in that low income category. So you'll see that outlined on the map there in the shaded in the gray color. So you'll see that there. You can scroll up. All right. So we'll talk about what is Community Development Block Grant. So it's a grant that was started way back in 1974. It's a federal grant. Funds are given to the city for you all to kind of take action to help your residents in the way that you see fit, based on the needs of the community. Texarkana is an entitlement jurisdiction, and so annually they receive a formula allocation. Part of that allocation, so HUD decides how much funds the city will receive. The city is responsible for identifying needs every 5 years, and then every year they're responsible for telling the federal government how you're going to use your funds within that particular year. So hence the consolidated plan, which is a 5-year strategic plan, and the action plan, which is an annual plan. The CDBG grant is a flexible grant. There's so many things you can do with that grant. It kind of covers the gamut. If it's geared towards the low income population of your community, most things are eligible. So that includes things like public infrastructure, economic development, any kind of public service activities, housing. So it kind of covers a lot of ground. And then there's some national objectives that HUD kind of identifies One being benefiting low to moderate income residents. We talked about that. The other two are less likely. Reducing or eliminating slum and blight. So this does require that the city kind of designate those areas if we want to get into that. And then meeting an urgent need. This one is, if the president has declared some sort of emergency, so like a hurricane or tornado, and the city wants to use their allocation towards those purposes. But most cities tend to just use their funds for that first category, which is to benefit the low and moderate income residents in the community. So we can scroll up. Okay, so I talked briefly about the consolidated plan. We'll give you a little bit more detail. Like I said before, it's a 5-year plan. It identifies housing and community development needs. Then we'll look at priorities. So from those needs, we develop priorities, and from those priorities, we develop specific goals that we want to achieve over that 5-year time frame. And then come up with strategies in order to get that done. So this plan that we've prepared, it includes that 5-year strategic plan and then that action plan, what we're going to do actually in 2023. It is required by HUD. And it also provides a mechanism for the public to provide input so that we know what the public is saying the needs are. We never want to have the board kind of decide what the needs are without including the people that it will affect. So it's big on getting that input on the front end, and then we get input on the back end as well to make sure that we kind of got it right. So the residents say these are the needs. We incorporate that into the plan, and then we ask the residents, did we get it right? And we kind of move from there. And it also helps us to determine how the city will use their particular allocation in any given year based on the needs that were identified. So you can scroll up. Okay, so we'll talk briefly about the elements of the consolidated plan. So like I said before, citizen input. So we came out back in early May and did some input with residents, nonprofits, other city city staff and things of that nature to gain some input about the need in the community. So we'll do a community needs analysis. It involves a housing needs analysis. So we look at the community input, but we also look at just empirical data, like census data, HUD data, any other types of trusted reports, your comprehensive plan, any other plans that the city has prepared. So we'll look at all of that stuff in connection with citizen input to come up with the needs, priorities, and strategies. Another thing that we look at are special needs populations. So are people needing anything in particular as it relates to disabilities or any other types of special needs? We look at barriers to affordable housing. That's a big one in Texarkana and just across the nation. And again, the 5-year strategic plan and the annual action plan. So these are included. Okay, so when we talk about that citizen participation, like I said, back in early May, we had 3 public input meetings. We had a community needs survey that was advertised in the paper from April, so that's available, It's available from April 22nd through July 4th. We had focus groups, so homeless service providers, Hispanic residents, public housing residents. So we looked at all of that. And then just interviews with city staff and any other selected agencies. So if you look at the other side of the screen there, public comment. So this is public comment opened on June 10th. It'll go for 30 days through July 11th. We'll come back on July 10th for public hearing and comment. Draft copies of the plan is available at the city's Planning and Community Development homepage, and then paper copies are available upon request. So if someone wants to get a physical copy, you can reach out to Vashil and his team. And then everything was advertised in the Texarkana Gazette, Amigo News, the city's website, the city's Facebook page, and they had flyers, and so that's how people were kind of able to see what was happening. So we can scroll up. Okay. So HUD requires that at least 70% of funds are used to benefit low and moderate income persons or neighborhoods. So this could be housing, it could be jobs, it could be infrastructure, it could be parks, historic preservation, any kind of rehabilitation, redevelopment, all of those things. It just requires that at least 70% of that is used for the low-income population. So you might say, well, what is that other 30%? HUD does allow for the city to use 20% of that for administrative and planning costs. And then the other 10%, things like economic development may not always be geared directly towards the low income. So that's kind of where that goes. All right. So all projects and activities funded by CDBG must meet all federal laws and guidelines. So there's a mountain of things that Vashil and his team has to go through to make sure that they're in compliance with grant requirements and things like that on a daily basis. And the annual action plan must align with the needs and priorities and strategy that's set forth in the comp plan. So they kind of tie together. Okay, we can scroll up. All right, so for 2023, this is a 2023 budget. The city received allocation of $414,551 for 2023, and you'll see the proposed expenditures there. So there's a set aside of $100,000 for owner-occupied housing repairs, $10,000 for home buyers assistance, $153,551 for public improvements and infrastructure. So that could be things like sidewalks and things of that nature. Public services, $54,000. So this would be any activities that directly benefit residents. So this could be money to a nonprofit, things of that nature. Program administration, so this is $72,000. That's that planning and administration that I talked about earlier. And code enforcement officer, so that's $25,000. So you'll see that laid out there. You'll see some additional, you'll see on the other side the revenues for 2023. And I'm sorry, I misspoke. The allocation for 2023 was $362,051. And then the additional funding, you'll see there, the $2,500 and the $50,000, that's funding that the city already has to bring you to that total of $414,000. So this is just a copy of the plan. So if you want to, take a deeper dive with that, you can, like I said, access it on the city's website or obtain a copy from Vashil and his team. So does anybody have any questions?
Yes, ma'am, I've got one. So on the projections for 2023, it shows $153,551 for earmarked for public improvements and infrastructure. So what does that specifically pertain to, or has that been determined yet?
Vashil.
Yes, Mayor, some of that would go toward, as you mentioned, looking at sidewalk projects. And there's a couple areas around some of the community centers that we're looking at doing some infrastructure improvements to as well. So that's what that would be geared towards.
Okay. So I serve as chairman of the Urban Transit District, which operates our T-Line bus system along with Dusty and Kristen. So would it be, I'm talking about in the future. So when you talk about public infrastructure and improvements, would something like some benches at a bus stop, a public bus stop, would that be something that would be agreeable or something that could be approved as far as using these funds towards?
Yes, but currently right now we already have some funds allocated to do some bus stops.
Okay.
That we're currently working on. But yeah, that would be something that could be approved as a project.
We certainly have a need for that. We have several bus stops, which Texarkana, Arkansas, Texas, Nash, and Wake Village, where it just kind of breaks my heart to drive by those bus stops and people are having to stand there, and sometimes they'll have bags of groceries in their hands, and so those benches are, and in some instances the overhead shelter, which they are considerably more expensive, several thousands of dollars to put those in place. But I'm just glad to know that in the future, if we had a shortfall somewhere, that we could possibly use those funds for infrastructure in that capacity. That's good to know. Okay.
I have a question on this code enforcement.
Yes, Ms. Matlock?
What's that for a code enforcement officer? $25,000.
So that is working with Michelle's team to provide funding for code enforcement officer that would be in specifically those low to moderate income neighborhoods.
So that's not included in the city's budget instead of the CDBG?
So this is just a portion of that budget. As you can see, that's $25,000. It'd be a little bit more than that to fund that the word I'm looking for to fund that position.
Any other questions from the council? Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate your being here and providing the information, and we look forward to working with you in the future. So, all right. Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
Have a great day.
All right. And where do you reside from, ma'am? Which office are you from?
I'm from WFN Consulting, and we're based out of Atlanta.
Atlanta, Georgia? Okay, wow. Okay, you've come quite a ways then.
I have.
Okay, all right. We certainly wish you safe travels back.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. All right. Okay, item number 2 is resolution number 2023-082, establishing a youth advisory committee appointed by the city council. Once again, on these first briefings, we will have public hearings on July the 10th, as well as council consideration. And we have Chiquita Burks, who is going to brief us on this item. And I mentioned earlier about the Scholars Program hosting or sponsoring the Juneteenth celebration downtown, and Ms. Burks serves as one of the leaders of that group, and so I want to thank you for your service with the Scholars Program and everything that you do with them as well. So,
thank you.
Okay, all right, turn it over to you for our briefing, Ms. Burks.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As he said, my name is Chiquita Burks. I am the City Management Fellow. Today, I would like to propose a Youth Advisory Committee. First, I will give you the background on the Youth Advisory Commissions across the state of Texas. Since 2003, the Texas Municipal League Board of Directors has made youth advisory commissions a priority in the cities across the state of Texas. Some of the cities include Arlington, Bryan, DeSoto, Garland, Lancaster, Rockwall, San Marcos, Waco, and more. Some of the youth advisory committees focus on community service. Others concentrate on peer involvement. And some operate as mini city councils that deliberate issues and make recommendations. The Youth Advisory Council provides cities with energetic volunteers for civic projects. It gives city leaders a fresh viewpoint on issues challenging our cities and creates a sense of accomplishment for our youth. The resolution for council consideration would establish a youth advisory committee composed of 7 youth ages 15 to 18 to commit civic involvement and participate in city government. The members shall serve for the program year beginning September 1 and ending May 31st of the following year. Each member shall be a resident of the city of Texarkana, Texas, a high school student in grades 10 through 12, and at least 15 years of age by September 1, start date of the program year. The program will be called the Texarkana Youth Advisory Committee, or TYAC. The city manager or his designee shall serve as the advisor and staff liaison, and the mayor shall serve as a council liaison to the Texarkana Youth Advisory Commission. All Texarkana Youth Advisory members shall be selected using an open application process and submitted to the city manager's office. Deadlines for submitting applications shall be established by the city manager's office. All appointments to the Texarkana Youth Advisory Commission shall be made by the city council. When vacancies exist during a program year, the city council may make an appointment to fill a vacancy or may leave vacancies unfilled until the next program year. The Texarkana Youth Advisory Commission shall include a chair, a vice chair, secretary, and historian, all of whom shall be selected by a majority vote of the TYAC members at the beginning of the program year. Members of the Texarkana Youth Advisory Commission are expected to take their appointments to the TYAC seriously through display of leadership, courtesy, punctuality, and consistent attendance. TYAC members are expected to attend all regular monthly TYAC meetings, as well as any additional TYAC-related events which may be scheduled throughout the program year. TYAC members are allowed one quarterly meeting absence and are expected to attend at least 2 TYAC-related events during the program year. This concludes my proposal. I would love to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Burks? I think this is a very exciting program that we're looking at implementing, so I think it will really involve our youth with city government, and so I think it's a great opportunity. So
I do too.
appreciate you all doing this.
Will there be some kind of selection process, or just anyone who puts the application in, they're allowed to be on the council?
Well, that will be the council. You will be the ones to pick the applicants.
Okay, so they put all of the applications in. How many are you kind of looking for?
7.
7, okay. You said that, I remember now.
I thought we had discussed possibly, maybe not, and I know y'all had a meeting, but I didn't get to attend, but in my mind, I had it where there was someone from each ward. Was that, am I right, Ms. Matlock? Okay, is that still
Yes, the council members will select the applicants.
per ward or just in general altogether? I'm just trying to get clarity. Or we didn't
I think
get
the
that
general
far.
idea was that each council member would select their TYAC member. So similar to budget advisory or
Right.
other
Okay.
boards that you have, that each member would have. And then we also talked about, and we kind of went back and forth on this, was alternates, right? Because there's always the opportunity that someone's missing a meeting, and so we may have alternates. And so working out that process of how that may work. But as for now, we were just proposing the 7 members that would have each council member and the mayor make an appointment for the Youth Advisory Committee.
Okay, and then anticipating the growth, I guess, of it at some point, or are we primarily focusing on maintaining 7?
Plan was to start with 7, and we can always add to that. Chiquita did a lot of research on different cities. They span the gamut. You know, some
Right.
cities have 7 members, others have 20.
Right.
we wanted
Ms.
to
Matlock and I, when we attended, that's
Yes.
why I asked how many. I
Yes.
mean, we saw as many as 50 at the conference. That's why I didn't know if we eventually will get to the point where we may have, 20 kids or,
Yeah, we'll start off small
7,
and
yeah.
then just, yeah.
sure, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, all right.
What did you say the name of it would be?
County Youth Advisory Committee.
TYAC.
Any other questions? Okay, Chiquita, thank you very much. Appreciate the
you.
information. All right. Moving along to item number 3, ordinance number 2023-068, granting a specific use permit to allow one additional use of permanent cosmetics on Lot 1, Richmond Acres subdivision located at 5822 Richmond Road. John and Kinsey Bullock owners and Jordan Johnson agent. And Ms. Michelle Daniel is going to be briefing us on item 3 as well as the remainder of our first briefings agenda. So good evening, Michelle. Glad to have you with us.
Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So this is a request for a specific use permit to allow permanent cosmetic procedures at 5822 Richmond Road. The future land use map has designated this property as University Plan Development District. The adjacent zoning is Plan Development General Retail to the east and south, University Plan Development District to the north and west. The adjacent land usage is a business to the east, vacant property to the north, and residential to the west and south. Staff and Planning and Zoning do recommend approval of this request, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Michelle on this item? Okay, that's where the existing salon is, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
very good. All right. Any questions? Okay, so council, we're going to, if you want to mark your mark your agendas, we're going to kind of group these next first briefing items together, because basically we have, in essence, one project, but we have 3 different parcels of land involving that. So we're going to group items 4 and 5 together, as well as items 6 and 7. Excuse me, 6, 7, and 8, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 6, 7, and 8. And then we're also going to group 9, 10, and 11. And then we'll also group 12, 13, and 14. So we just have different components within this. So anyway, Michelle's going to walk us through these. So I'm going to begin with item 4, ordinance number 2023-069, granting a specific use permit to allow an assisted living facility on approximate 11.25 acre tract of land, being tract 21, Willis Oldham Headright Survey A-458, located at 5902 North Park Road, and by protest requiring a 3/4 vote. C. Jack Smith, owner, and Steve McKee, agent. Item 5 is ordinance number 2023-075, amendment to PD-23-2 for site plan approval on an approximate 11.25 acre tract of land, being tract 21, Willis Oldham Headright Survey, A-458, located at 5902 North Park Road, and requiring a 3/4 vote. C. Jack Smith, owner, and Steve McKee, agent. And once again, as with our previous items, public hearings are scheduled for, public hearing on this item is scheduled for July 10th, as well as council consideration. So Michelle, turn it over to you on the briefing.
Okay. So Mayor, as you said, this is a request for specific use permit and site plan approval to allow an assisted living facility located at 5902 North Park Road. The current property is an old home place which will be demolished. The adjacent zoning is agriculture to the north and east, single family 2 to the south and west. The adjacent land use is vacant land to the north and residential to the east and west, and the roadside park or tour stop to the south. The future land use map has designated this property as suburban residential. Staff had recommended for denial of this request as it conflicts with the future land use map and comprehensive plan, but however, staff did recommend that if approved, a plan development designation would be placed on the specific use permit and restrict use to an assisted living facility only. With a plan development designation, all other substantial amendments or changes to the site plan will be brought before the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. The Planning and Zoning Commission placed a plan development on the specific use permit by a vote of 4-1. The site plan will consist of the following: the construction of an 8,730 square foot building. The access driveway will be off North Park Road. There will be 9 parking spaces and includes 1 handicap space. There will be no signage. The development must meet the drainage ordinance and stormwater manual design standards, and there will be a screened dumpster site. So there were signatures of protests that represented more than 20% of the property owners within 200 feet of the proposed project. Therefore, a 4th vote will be required by City Council to approve this request. The applicants, Mr. and Mrs. McKee, are here in the audience, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Michelle on this item, or these items, rather?
In regards to the site plan, this is limited to just one physical building.
Correct, that is true. And then here is a site plan also shown on the screen, and you can see the proposed building and the circle drive.
Do we know what any of the reasons for protests were?
Yes, just a second, let me find that. So and I wanted to read this so I don't
Go
speak.
ahead, that's
but,
fine.
That request conflicts with the residents. Suburban residential future land use to maintain its designation. And so basically the suburban residential land use, they wanted to maintain that as far as the future land use map goes. There was also a statement that this would allow for lower density housing and that there are drainage issues in the area. There was some concerns about the street, North Park Road, and concerns that this would hurt the residential value of homes if the assisted living goes in. And so those were the main complaints from the citizens that showed up at the planning and zoning meeting.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Did you say there was already some dilapidated buildings that would be demolished?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. They've been vacant for a while. There's a house and 2 barns, I believe. Is that correct? Yes.
Yeah, this property's right behind the Tourist Bureau on North Park Road. So there's a frame home there and some other buildings.
To the east, or I'm sorry, get my directions right. To the west, going towards Summerhill, I believe there's already assisted living facility in the area.
Yes, sir, there is.
Any other questions? All right, very good. Mr. and Mrs. McKee, we thank you for being with us this evening to our meeting. So appreciate your attendance. All right. All right, so if there are no further questions, we'll move along to items 6 and 7. Ordinance number 2023-071, rezoning WPT Lot 20. Let me read this because I've got some revised information. Ordinance number 2023-07, rezoning Lot 20 and 21 and 22, Block 6, HS Janes Headright Survey, A-306, located 4307 and 4301 Gazola Street, and 1312 Letter Carrier Drive, from Single Family 2 to Agriculture. Inez Dixon, owner. Charles Griffin, Jr., agent. Item 7 is ordinance number 2023-072, rezoning EPT Lot 20, Block 6, HS Janes Headright Survey, A-306, located at 4301 Gazola Street, Single Family 2 to Agriculture. Inez Dixon, owner. Charles Griffin, Jr., agent. Item number 8, ordinance number 2023-073, rezoning Lot 22, Block 6, HS Janes Headright Survey, A-306, located at 1312 Letter Carrier Drive, Single Family 2 to Agriculture. Inez Dixon, owner. Charles Griffin, Jr., agent. All right, I'll stop there, Michelle, and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So this is a request to rezone 4307, 43 and 4301 Gazola Street and 1312 Letter Carrier Drive from Single Family 2 to Agriculture. These 3 lots are all there together. The adjacent zoning is Industrial 1 to the north, Commercial to the east, Single Family 2 to the south and north, and Loop 1512 I-369 to the west. The adjacent land use is a trucking company to the north, residential to the east, vacant land to the south, and Loop 1512 I-369 and vacant land to the west. The future land use map has designated this property as industrial. Staff did recommend for denial of this request as it conflicts with the future land use map and comprehensive plan. Planning and zoning unanimously recommended for approval of this item, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Michelle on these three items? Okay. All right, now we'll move along to items 9, 10, and 11. Item 9 is ordinance number 2023-083, granting a specific use permit to allow an RV park on lot 20 and 22, 21 and 22, Block 6, H.S. Janes Headright Survey A-306, located at 4307 and 4301 Gazola Street and 1312 Letter Carrier Drive. Inez Dixon, owner. Charles Griffin, Jr., agent. Item 10, ordinance number 2023-084, granting a specific use permit to allow an RV park on the EPT Lot 20, Block 6, H.S. Janes Headright Survey A-306, located at 4301 Gazola Street. Inez Dixon, owner. Charles Griffin, agent. Item 11, ordinance number 2023-085, granting a specific use permit to allow an RV park on Lot 22, Block 6, H.S. Janes Headright Survey A-306, located at 1312 Letter Carrier Drive. Inez Dixon, owner. Charles Griffin, Jr., agent. Michelle?
So again, this is a request for a specific use permit located at 4301 and 4307 Gazola Street and 1312 Letter Carrier Drive. The current property is vacant land. The proposed use is an RV park. Staff did recommend for denial of this request as it conflicts with the future land use map and the comprehensive plan. However, if the request is approved, staff recommended placing a plan development on the specific use permit. Planning and zoning unanimously approved this request with a plan development designation. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Michelle?
So what were some of the things that planning and zoning figured would be okay once, overturning what the staff had approved or denied?
They did have stipulations which do come up in the site plan approval in our next items, but those were to restrict use to an RV park only. All future uses were required to obtain site plan approval. The applicant must designate the front yard and side yards. The site plan needs to be adjusted for the front yard and side yard setbacks, and no RV pad sites will be allowed inside the setbacks. They restrict the renters to a temporary 90-day stay in a single spot. The entrance and inside driveway must be a hard surface, and the RV sites can also be a hard surface or engineered gravel. And no permanent structures allowed, and that's such as like porches to an RV, awnings, storage buildings or sheds. And the exception to this would be the office building and fencing required.
So there would be a requirement of fencing around
Yes,
the
sir.
perimeter?
Yes, sir.
Is there a certain height or?
No, sir, there's not a certain height.
Okay, but it would require perimeter fencing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, any questions by the council? Okay, now we'll move along and we're going to group together once again items 12, 13, and 14. Item 12 is ordinance number 2023-086, amending PD-23-3A for site plan approval on lot 20, 21, and 22, Block 6, H.S. Janes Headright Survey A-306, located at 4307 and 4301 Gazola Street and 1312 Letter Carrier Drive. Inez Dixon, owner. Charles Griffin, Jr., agent. Item 13 is ordinance number 2023-087, amending PD 23-4A for site plan approval on EPT Lot 20, Block 6, H.S. Janes Headright Survey A-306, located at 4301 Gazola Street. Inez Dixon, owner. Charles Griffin, Jr., agent. Item number 14 is ordinance number 2023-088, amending PD-23-5A for site plan approval on Lot 22, Block 6, H.S. Janes Headright Survey A-306, located at 1312 Letter Carrier Drive, Inez Dixon owner, Charles Griffin Jr. agent. Michelle?
So these three items are a request for site plan approval at 4301, 4307 Gazola Street, and 1312 Letter Carrier Drive. The Planning and Zoning Commission did place a plan development designation on these lots, and therefore staff recommends the following stipulations. Restrict the use to a RV park only. All future uses will be required to obtain site plan approval. The applicant must designate front yard and side yards. The site plan needs to be adjusted for the front yard and side yard setbacks, and no RVs, pads, site is allowed inside the setbacks. Restrict renters to a temporary 90-day stay in one spot. The entrance and inside driveway must be a hard surface, and the RV sites must be a hard surface or engineered gravel. No permanent structures are allowed, including but not limited to awning covers, storage buildings, and sheds, and the exception is the office building and fencing. A 35-foot pole sign is allowed. Downward-facing lighting. There must be a privacy fence around the property, a screened dumpster site, and the office building must be built to code. Planning and Zoning unanimously approved this request, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Michelle? Okay, I think we've got this one down pretty pat, so. All right, so thank you, Michelle. Appreciate the briefings this evening. And Michelle, thank you for your briefings this evening, and Chiquita. Now moving along to our public hearings. We do have 3 public hearings scheduled. Ordinance number 2023-065, approving the voluntary annexation of approximately 27.346 acres in the George Brindley Head Right Survey, A-18, 3313 Pleasant Grove Road, to the city limits of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, and specifying a planned development, multiple family 2, zoning district classification, First Church of the Nazarene owner. Once again, public hearing is scheduled for this evening as well as council vote. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open. If there's anyone who would like to address the council, if you will, please state your name for the record.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm Richard Reynolds.
Good evening, Mr. Reynolds. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. I'm representing the First Church of the Nazarene, the owner of the property, and we are requesting voluntary annexation of the property. We have a small portion of the property that's in the city limits, as well as we would like to specify some planned development and multifamily 2 district classification on a certain part of that property that faces Pleasant Grove Road as well. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Reynolds? Is any part of that in a floodplain?
Just a little bit,
Just
Mr.
a little
Mayor.
bit.
There's
I saw some blue on the map, so
there's only approximately 10 acres of this property that faces Pleasant Grove Road that's usable, that's out of the floodplain, and the rest of it back to the west is somewhat unusable.
Okay. Okay. Any final questions for Mr. Reynolds? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time this evening and information. Public hearing is still open. If anyone else would like to address the council on this item, if you'll please come forward and state your name for the record. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Davis, second by Councilmember Page. Ms. Coopwood, the caption, please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, annexing by petition of landowner the hereinafter described territory of approximately 27.346 acres in the George Brindley Headright Survey, A-18, to the City of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, and extending the boundary limits of said city so as to include said hereinafter described territory within said city limits, granting to all the inhabitants of said territory all the rights and privileges of other citizens, binding said inhabitants by all acts, ordinances, resolutions, and regulations of said city, and the property therein bearing its pro rata part of the taxes levied by the city, assigning said territory to its adjoining ward, incorporating.
Said territory to the zoning board. I'm sorry. You're good.
Are you?
You're good.
Okay. Assigning said territory to the adjoining ward, incorporating by reference the municipal services agreement, owner consent voluntary annexation between city and landowner, specifying a zoning district classification, providing for the filing of this ordinance with county records, and updating the city boundaries map, containing severability and superseding clauses, containing legislative findings, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ordinance passes unanimously. Councilmember White, congratulations. You have some new territory. Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Anyway, moving on to item 2, ordinance number 2023-067, amending. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Thank you all for being here. Item 2, ordinance number 2023-067, amending PD-20-4 general retail for site plan approval on Lot 1, The Grove at Amesdale, located at 5714 Richmond Road. Johnny Gibbs, owner, and Kayla Wood, MTG Engineers and Surveyors Agent. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open. If there's anyone who would like to speak on this item, if you'll please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Kayla Wood with MTG Engineers.
Good evening, Kayla.
How are y'all?
Okay.
This is for the Diamond State Bank that's going next to Big Jake's. That's almost constructed. They've kind of been going on a faith that it's going to get approved tonight. But anyway, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Okay. Any questions for Kayla on this item? Okay. Thank you for being here. All right. Public hearing is still open. If anyone else would like to address the council, please come forward. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember White and a second by Councilmember Hart. Ms. Coopwood, the caption, please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending PD 20-4 GR for site plan approval on Lot 1, The Grove at Amesdale, located at 5714 Richmond Road in the City of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ordinance passes unanimously. We have one final public hearing, and this item 3, resolution number 2023-091, approving the city manager to authorize an agreement with Paddle TXK LLC. And we're going to have Keith Beeson to provide some information in reference to this resolution. Good evening, Keith.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you guys for letting me have this time. I wanted to introduce our presenter here for this next piece. It is Cheyenne Adams. She is the winner of the 2023 Pitch It competition, entrepreneurial competition that has started in the past couple of years here in Texarkana. And we're grateful that she kept Texarkana in mind with her business idea. So if we could have Cheyenne come up and go over her presentation a little bit with you guys. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Keith. All right. Good evening, Ms. Adams. If you don't mind, would you please state your name for the record?
Yes, I'm Cheyenne Adams.
Okay, good evening. We're glad to have you with us. Feel free to proceed.
Okay, my business is Paddle TXK, which takes place at Bringle Lake, just adjacent to the university. And is it okay if I scroll this? Okay, I was trying to go to the next one. Our kayaks are high visibility kayaks. We went with Jackson kayaks because they're more inclusive, they're bigger, higher weight limit, and very easy to see. And it's family friendly. We would have an outside, I'm sorry, all the points. The kayaks are going to be launched from the boat ramp, and then the lake's going to be divided into 3 parts. Like some for more experienced, some for intermediate, and some for beginners. There's going to be people around everyone that's working there, including me, as CPR certified. There's going to be a lot of safety instructions beforehand. Everyone has a life jacket that we give them, paddles, kayaks, and then we also have pedal boats to go with it, and then paddle boards, but for at Spring Lake Park. It's open seasonally, and the goal is to just get the college students to work there, and just fun for the family outside, you know. But this is the map that the city gave. It's like 3 parts. The beginner kayaks, we've been out there a ton just to see how it goes. It's very shallow. It's about 3 feet deep. And then in the middle, it's about the width of 2 football fields. And it's pretty deep, about 20 feet. And then we would not be allowed to go past the intermediate part, which is near the dam. Be like a cutoff that everybody knows about. And it would be enforced strictly just to keep everyone safe and to avoid the boaters. And then, oh, this is just the prices. Try to keep it as like price conscientious as possible so that it would be family friendly and for everybody. And then these are some of the rules. Like there's emergency contacts, and then there's kayak laws that are in effect in Texas, like P-less whistles. That they're whistles that work even if they get wet, and they work underwater just to keep everybody safe. And there's always first aid kits. Everybody's CPR certified, and then we have emergency exit plans. And every safety rule goes in with like, I'm so sorry. Everyone has like a communication device, cell phones. And then all the dress codes are like life jackets. And then to wear layers that are like light layers, keep you covered. And then I think this is like, it would be stored in a Connex. And then we have life jackets. And those are a picture of our kayaks that you can see across the lake. So any boaters coming around the corner, you can absolutely see. And then those are pedal boats, which seat 4 people. And then just a thank you. Sorry.
So, someone who comes out to Bringle Lake and they want to rent this equipment, so where would they go once they get there?
Okay, it's the parking lot that's right by the university. It's on North University Avenue, where all the parking spots are, and then the Connex is going to be on the side, which is like kind of by the tree line, and launch off the boat dock.
Okay, so over in the vicinity where the pavilion is?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
what you're talking about? Okay. Okay, so they would go there, park their vehicle, and then they would, you gonna have any kind of a setup there, or like, just, you'll have the boats and everything on display, and then they'll just walk up and someone will be there to help them?
Yes, and they also have an app for reservations, and it's like integrated with the website, just kind of like you would reserve a table at a restaurant. You can reserve a kayak for the day.
So is the waiver, all of that is online as far as because is there a waiver? I thought I saw
There is a waiver. I'm sorry. It's through Jason Carter Insurance. He did all of the waivers for us. We can either do one online where it has your driver's license, kind of like iJump, or paper ones as well, because not everyone has an iPhone.
Okay. And then you pay cash or card, or
Yes, ma'am, both.
And then you can make your reservations, you said, online?
Yes. It's just I haven't done the website yet without approval from you guys.
Yeah,
so.
you're good.
You have lifeguards.
No lifeguards on duty, but that's already posted. But I'm CPR certified, and then the people working there will also be CPR certified. We have a kayak or like a canoe with like a trolley motor to make sure everyone's doing good, plus the whistles. But if you're new to kayaking, would suggest you stay in that very shallow area with the lily pads, very close to where we'll be.
So there'll be someone there to monitor
Always, yes.
those who are participating.
Is there an age requirement? You have to be a certain age?
You have to be 16 or older to kayak by yourself, and that's just going with the laws of the Texas waterways.
But like parents could do it with children? Is
Oh,
there
that's how we have tandem kayaks for that, and then also boats, like pedal boats that seat 4.
Okay, but there's not a minimum age, I mean, that, even with a parent, like
No.
they could or couldn't, okay.
So that's my daughter on the top one. She's been kayaking like solo for a couple of years, and she's only 9. So it's very family friendly. And there's no waves and no big boulders. There are no rapids. It's a very easy lake to kayak on.
So pending council approval on this, would you be starting right away this summer? Or?
Yes, on the 4th of July.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Okay, very innovative idea. I wish you the best of luck with it, and congratulations on winning the Pitch It competition. I was there this year to watch that, so there were some very good proposals. I was very pleased with those proposals that were made. And so congratulations to you on being the top winner. So.
Oh, thank you. It was fun.
I have one
Yeah,
question.
Ms. Matlock?
Yes, she says that's her daughter and she's 9. You look like you're about 15.
No,
Paul.
no. So thank you, though.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Appreciate the information. All right. Thank you, Keith. All right. Public hearing is still open on this item. If there's anyone else who would like to address the council, please come forward. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. This is a resolution, so there's not a caption. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The resolution passes unanimously. Ms. Adams, good luck to you with your project. Okay. This concludes our public hearings portion of the agenda. We'll now move forward to the city manager's report. Dr. Orr.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates to pass along to you tonight. First off, just a sales tax update. So sales tax receipts for the month of June totaled $1.6 million. That's a slight increase from compared to the same month the prior year. Fiscal date collections totaled $12.6 million. That's an increase of 5.79% compared to last year overall. Also, just wanted to make a note about 2 different reports that were just released. We did press releases on both of these. The first was a new economic development quarterly report that was released and worked on by Lisa Thompson. And so that report includes information on new development, planned new retail, construction permits, residential permits, and we will disseminate this information to prospects along with local business leaders as well in the Chamber of Commerce. And so the big highlight from that report was that in the last 6 months, over $302 million of new commercial construction has been announced or began inside the city within the last 6 months, and with another $209 million slated for FY 23-24. Also on our website is the Texarkana Arts and Historic District Economic Impact Study. This was a collaborative effort with all our arts organizations downtown and took place over the last year. And so that study found that there was a $9.1 million impact and direct and indirect expenditures because of the arts in downtown. So again, both of those are on our website, and thanks in large part to Lisa Thompson along with our arts organizations. Oh, and I lost, there we go. And then just a couple of other save the dates to pass along. You mentioned several of these already tonight, but just wanted to note we have a save the date for Officer Jason Sprague bridge dedication, which will take place Monday, June 26th at 9 a.m. at the Gibson Lane Bridge. Also, we have a Texarkana Sesquicentennial Commemorative Ball that will take place at Texarkana Country Club Saturday, July 8th at 7 p.m. And there's tickets available at Eventbrite. I think you all have flyers as well at your desk. And then also a save the date for the Jameson Building in partnership with Kansas State University Technical Assistance Program for Brownfields. They will be here Thursday, July 27th at the Texarkana Public Library in the David Nelson Meeting Room. And we haven't set a time on that yet, but just wanted to send a save the date. But this is a free program that is through the EPA Brownfields program, very similar to the same work that was done on the Hotel Grimm years ago, if you remember some of those public meetings. So that's all that I have in terms of save the dates. Also, I just wanted to recognize with us, I believe he's still here in the audience, but Reed Russell. Reed is our public service intern for this summer, and Reed attends the Bush School of Public Service at Texas A&M and College Station, and so we're excited to have him on board with us this summer. And then also I want to recognize, as you did, Chiquita Burks and Rhonda Dolberry, along with the scholars, for their work this weekend with the Juneteenth celebration. And also our Parks Department for the stage setup and takedown. It took a village to pull off this event, but it was well attended and an incredible event for our community. So thank you for all involved.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, David. All right. We'll now move along to administrative comments. Any comments from the council this evening? Okay. Any final comments from city staff, David? Okay. Very good. At this time, the City Council will convene into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.087. economic development negotiations to discuss or deliberate offers of financial or other incentives to business prospects, Project X. And for everyone here and those watching on live stream, the council does not anticipate taking any action after a closed session other than reconvening in open session and adjourning the meeting. At this time, we will end the live stream, and thank you all for being with us this evening. Hope you have a great evening.